Welcome back to Dialog Choices podcast. We didn't know what to talk about this week, but then we were reminded of the fact that there's a butt hair video on YouTube that currently has 22 million views, and talking
22.
Yeah, it's a popular video on YouTube, and if I talk about it in detail, we'll get demonetized. That's how fraught and confusing this whole thing is, but he's just there. But I just had to start the podcast because I realized, so
we had to start.
Hi everyone.
It's like a 3-minute video that's gonna describe getting rid of hair on your butt and so on. But if you've watched any popular YouTube videos that do the whole 10-minute formula, all those people I build a weird device or a prank or some other kind of thing that happens, and there's a thing teased in the thumbnail and in the title that's going to happen. The wisdom of that video formula is always to open the video with a cut to the thing that's the payoff kind of, but only a hint of it to get you to keep watching the video, to promise you that it will in fact contain the thing you clicked on. But then the whole intro starts playing where they talk about it. But in the most surreal thing ever for me on YouTube, where I'm constantly afraid of what to even show in videos or what I'm gonna get in trouble for, and famously there were stories of people losing their entire channels for uploading the wrong kind of stuff, and Andrew got a strike and couldn't stream for months because he uploaded the wrong clip of a horny game once, and wasn't censored enough or whatever. But this guy, due to that YouTube wisdom, removing butt hairs using Nair Cream, a visual guide, 2 seconds of the video, it just smash cuts to his asshole and then cuts back to him so he can talk about what the video is going to be about, because he got to do that teaser at the beginning of the video.
Oh, it's the
most surreal
the thumbnail
thing I've ever
is
seen.
his butthole.
Yeah, no, it's just, I'll put it in a voice chat dump thing.
For our viewing pleasure.
Yeah, I'm not listening to him because it's on silent.
Hi everyone. Colonel is here and Toaster's also here because Keith is bad at introducing his co-host at the start of a video.
Reintroducing everyone every time is dumb anyway. I'm just staring at hairy taint right now.
Soon to not be hairy.
It will, yeah. There's a promise of it becoming unhairy, but at the moment, it's just winking at me, and I don't understand what YouTube's rules are, and no one will tell me. And no one, you can literally make a living off of YouTube for almost a decade, which I have, and there's still no one you can talk to about. I cannot stress enough how every time I bring this up, I'm never oh, look at this guy, and I want that this person punished on behalf of my confusion of YouTube and what I can get away with and so on. I don't care about these other people, but when I see stuff that's this extreme, I'm always okay, why did I get I think about how my video on Annihilation was algorithmically suppressed and restricted to adults only accounts forever, and just it was in the middle of this massive spike where I uploaded my Beastars video and it had its big moment, and then the Beastars video told the algorithm to give my Monster Hunter and Annihilation videos a second chance, and so both of those suddenly shot up to 100K a week apart from each other. It was visibly just giving them each a shot week after week. And the Monster Hunter video had a natural hill where it went up for a while and then it just kind of slowly went back down, and that was the lifespan of that video, as if it had been uploaded that day, even though it was uploaded months ago. Okay, they gave it a real shot now that I'm a monetized channel and I have had a breakthrough video, and Monster Hunter had a second chance at having a life. Annihilation shot up way faster and was potentially going to go viral, and actually it could have been, for all I know, it could have been my new biggest video because it took off faster than the Beastars video. But then I got an email saying now it's restricted to adults only, and it's cut off algorithmically, and you can just see in the analytics it's just a vertical wall where it just drops to basically 0. And it still gets a little trickle of a few dozen views here and there, and it's watchable. You can click on it and find it, but YouTube won't suggest it to people, which is the real way that people use YouTube, is they're told what videos to watch and they watch those ones. So when I see butthole with 222 million views, I'm like, I don't think that's algorithmically suppressed. I think him showing a hole and winking at people is that I think it's doing fine on YouTube. So why is my video where I review Annihilation, a movie that is not pornographic and might show
a bear?
Yeah, I don't think the bear is I mean, this week.
You want to know what else?
This week,
yeah,
bears
you want to
are
know what
pretty
else as a bear?
Yeah,
Baldur's Gate 3, baby.
We'll get the Baldur's Gate, I guess. But the yeah, for those that don't know, Baldur's Gate had druid sex in it, and one of them turns into just a normal bear, and they're implied to just be railing, and like. As far as I can tell, the only thing that could be like sexual and nudity in my video of Annihilation is the back. It's like the shot of what's her name's back when she's having a sex scene, but it's like one of those like non-titillating like cut to it to 2 seconds, and it's slow, and it's just like, oh, okay, you're seeing a woman's back, and and she's on top of a man. This conveys that a sex scene is indeed occurring, and then it's not like the fucking 300 sex scene where it's like this huge involved thing and you're meant to like sit there and stare at it for a while. It's just a shot that establishes that sex is happening, and because of that was probably included somewhere in my video, as best as I can tell, that's probably why I got age gated. But like, you could show a hole on YouTube apparently, so what the fuck? I'm so confused. I'm so like, when I talk about my frustration as a YouTuber, it's just the fact that when you put months of work into a video and pour your heart into it and really care about how the video is going to go and all that, you just desperately wish you could like get a YouTube official of some kind, like a personal agent, and just like have them watch the video and then just permanently give it a score of like what its age rating is before it releases, and then that's just how then you know like that's how movies work. Like you get the age rating before you release it. Don't get like surprised by the theaters being like, actually we decided that no one's allowed to watch your movie after you've already launched it. Like that'd be bad, obviously, to be surprised by the age rating of a movie after you've already literally released it. Whereas like people, if you're surprised by the age rating as a movie maker, you can re-edit your movie for the things that you think are what's causing that, and then get it re-certified or whatever the right terminology is. But as a YouTuber, what happens is you release a video, and so first you upload a video silently in the background, and you can leave it private or whatever, and it'll like do the whole thing where it's like, we're processing your video and we think, okay, it's been 24 hours and we've decided that it's this rating or whatever. And then you're like, okay, cool, so it's good for monetization, and it doesn't contain any it does not currently contain copyright clips of lengths that it detects that will then block me for the video for blah blah blah. We're safe, we're good. I've done all my due diligence as a YouTuber on this mega project to put out a video that should be okay on YouTube, and I know that because YouTube is literally telling me that. Then you set it live, and as many YouTubers know, suddenly, hours or days later, out of nowhere, it's suddenly demonetized, like it changed its mind, or suddenly it scans the video again and actually, no, that one clip you left in it at 37 minutes is 1 second too long, so it actually blocks the whole video because it thinks you've uploaded this movie to your channel. And you're like, what the fuck? And I think it's because if anything does kind of okay on YouTube, it essentially gets like double checked essentially. But like that's so deeply infuriating for anyone that's trying to actually make like high effort content, and you put all this time in and then you upload it and they can just like change their mind afterwards, even though there's all these systems that are supposed to pre-approve videos or tell you whether or not they're okay. They can just lie and change their mind afterwards, and like you're fucked at that point, because like re-uploading a video or re-editing it, like so many people are going to pass on the video when you upload it again because they already watched it, and so you've algorithmically killed your video because your engagement's going to just suck now, because you're essentially uploaded 2 separate videos and deleted the one that was more successful because that was the big exciting spike when everyone saw the new video. And now it's a disappointing re-upload of a video, and that one underperforming is the one that will actually drive the algorithm if you try to re-upload it. So like it sucks. Everything about this sucks. So I'm just so increasingly confused when I see like Trucker's Delight online for like the last, like I my comment being baffled by Trucker's Delight is I think like 8 years old now when I look back at that video. And that video has like hardcore like extreme kinks throughout it, but it's played off as like in a jokey art style. But like it's like full of stuff that people would be really alarmed by to see. And it's like I don't even know if it's age gated, to be honest. I'm gonna like open an incognito tab of YouTube and I'm gonna not signed in, try to watch Trucker's Delight, and we'll see if that works or not. But then you have this guy showing butt, and I'm like, I don't understand. Okay, you do have to be signed in age-wise to watch Trucker's Delight now. But it does have 6.7 million views and is basically pornographic. And there's this guy with 22 million views. And I'm just like, I think there's something
YouTube. Different here, and this is an issue just in general with this sort of stuff. But like, there's always been a dichotomy between like music videos and like haha nudity versus like what is perceived as like adult serious nudity. Even if like the quote unquote adult serious nudity or like stuff is like actually for educational purposes and isn't titillating, and like the music videos are like significantly more sexualized. This has like always been a thing, and it's really weird.
The most recent, at least the last I checked, the most recent Jack Black music video has him. It's like, I play video. It's about video games. It's just a montage of well animated but kind of vapid video game references. And at one point, he's Mario and he punches a question mark block. And instead of a mushroom coming out of the top, it's a big veiny dick. And I'm like, there it is. All right. Why am I policing myself all the time?
Nudity, though. Get it? Haha. Get it? No one's gonna find that erotic, and then they get to get away with it.
It's just a veiny dick.
Oh my god! It's like, is that video demonetized? Is that video age gated? And this is all me not trying to punish anybody else or anything. Obviously, like that's not my point. It's just the fact that I'm like, why am I as a person on YouTube, you walking on tiptoes all the time about getting punished, and then you see other people just get away with stuff on a way bigger okay, yeah, the Tenacious D video is not age gated. I just loaded it up. So there's a veiny dick on Jack Black's channel that you can just watch. It's also full of gore.
Yeah, it is.
Tenacious D, after all.
Yeah, it's Tenacious D, and I don't have a problem with Tenacious D. I just
no, because of I'm making a dick joke. You guys didn't.
Tenacious D's nuts. All right. I just don't know what to do with YouTube. We have an untrusting relationship with them, and it's not reciprocal. And I wish they would cuddle.
I have not been the worst I've gotten is they deleted. They didn't even demonetize my video. They deleted my thumbnail that was the binoculars looking at a desert with a tank in the middle.
Yeah.
And as far as I can tell, it thought it was boobs.
Oh yeah, no, I have one episode of Overwatch 1 that has a Mercy thumbnail that I've used several times, and it's the same thumbnail, just the number changed. But one of them was flagged for nudity, and I think I still can't upload thumbnails to that video now. Like I'm just not allowed to. Like that video, like that thumbnail was taken down for nudity, and there's no. I think for thumbnails, there's no process for like appealing it. It's just like, ew, you uploaded porn, stop. And I'm like, with how the accusation goes, I'm shocked that it wasn't like a thing I'm supposed to get punished for. But like this guy has his asshole on his thumbnail with his balls out. You can see his balls in the thumbnail. Soapy. His balls are out.
They are.
But because I uploaded a feminine figure that is fully clothed and haloed in light, they're like, that looks too much like the adult. We got to police women's bodies, but this guy's balls are out. That's fine. Like I don't understand. What is YouTube? What is YouTube as a platform? I just don't understand. I can't.
It wants to be TikTok and Twitter and Facebook all at the same time.
And I think the secret,
this sort of stuff is very common in other platforms. Let's be fair. YouTube just has the sort of historical precedence of
punishing people
like,
all the time. Yeah.
yeah.
And the real answer, I think, is just that YouTube is entirely driven by machine learning algorithms, and that includes all of its policing of all standards. And so no one on YouTube could tell you what will and won't get in trouble,
there's way too much content to police.
They don't even know.
They can't do it.
I don't even mean I don't even mean man hours. I don't even mean like they don't have the staff to review videos. I mean, like, because they don't control the algorithm that actually polices us, they don't know what the results will be either. They just let it go.
Like, I'm sure because
it like collectively kind of does its job of cleaning up the platform, so they let it do that because it's a cost saving measure. But that means that like they literally can't give us advice half the time on what will work because they don't know how their own monster operates.
No, I mean, I agree with that, and I think that's true. I just am also saying, like, I think that there also just like isn't a way to scale it in any function to make that work. Like, there is no way to make this feasibly. The platform is too big, and that's something that we're like encountering across the internet right now. And it's just like, in general, platforms have gotten too large as the internet has become too accessible and too many people have been doing too much. You just end up like being stuck like in this sort of scalability problem where you just, everything has to be this way. And it's just the worst.
You have an adpocalypse because people were serving Budweiser ads over beheading videos, and so now you just kind of have like a bot that just kind of shotgun blasts getting rid of some stuff, and that makes you look like you're doing your job at watching your platform, and you know, so maybe something gets through, but clearly you're like doing what you're supposed to, because look at all these videos that got taken down. And so that just like, you just hope you aren't on that coin flip if you have anything even vaguely marginal, but sometimes also stuff that just is like literally not even comprehensible as being adult rated. Like the fact that this guy has this in his thumbnail, but like I get in trouble for Tears of the Kingdom videos and they get demonetized. I'm like, I don't understand what's happening. I can't. It's one thing when it's like, apparently today, on the whims of whatever reviewer who probably isn't even a real person, that decided that this Annihilation clip of a sex scene was too over the line, is like, that's just me. That's just bad luck. But when it's when you're uploading Zelda and I don't know, maybe you said fuck once, that's too bad. This is where I'll point out that shockingly, our video about our last podcast that was about queer topics was demonetized.
Of course it was.
Interesting trend there. How that always happens.
Yeah.
So how's everybody doing today?
I'm fine. I'm getting really stoked on Baldur's Gate 3. I have been excited. I've been excited about this game for a very long time, because I like the idea of Baldur's Gate 3. I like Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. I'm sure Colonel can relate on that front. And I like what I've seen of the Divinity games. They seem pretty great. So I kind of trusted Larian to be the ones to get it. But I've always been like quietly hopeful for Baldur's Gate 3 because I didn't want to get my hopes up too high, because I think especially right now as we're going through like the height of tabletop popularity, it's very easy to like fuck up tabletop stuff. And like the example that I'll use is that like a lot of people really love playing tabletop with their friends, and we're in the height of the actual play being really popular. But like, there are also like a lot of just really not very compelling actual play podcasts out there. And like, just because people like D&D doesn't mean that like we're playing the best D&D we've ever played or anything. And that's fine. It's very accessible now, and it's good that more people are playing. But like, the spirit of what makes D&D really cool and like what excites me about it could have, I think, very easily been missed in Baldur's Gate 3. So to see at their announcement panel, they lead their marketing trailer with fucking druid wild shape DreamWorks winking at the camera, smashing, and then the hard cut to a squirrel dropping an acorn in shock. That just got me, man. I was so excited.
Audience.
It just imperfectly encapsulates the chaos of a D&D campaign of like, oh yeah, like every single person who's played tabletop knows that one player that's like, I'm a high charisma druid, and I'm gonna roll up to the bar, and while my teammates are trying to get information from this other person, I'm gonna wild shape into a squirrel and then try to sweet talk people by singing Alvin and the Chipmunks. And like, there's always a dumb player like that tries to do shit like that. So to see that represented and championed as the core of like a big marketing announcement in just the most absurd way possible immediately made me go like, oh yeah, this game gets it. Like, this game knows what makes tabletop so fucking funny and fun, and just it can go there. And it doesn't care. It has that like 90s punk rock vibe of like, nah man, I don't care what the moms on Facebook are gonna complain about when they see the bear wild shaped druid gay sex. Like, it's just like, fuck it, dude, this is Baldur's Gate, this game fucking rocks.
Bunch of people are about to learn about the Harkness test.
Larian is about the best company in terms of the people who make RPGs to sort of pull that sort of childish, non like it's fully committed, but still like it's weird. They have glimpses of that in all of their Divinity games, but I hope they go full out with Baldur's Gate 3.
I think it looks so promising. I'm truly excited about it after that marketing event, because I think it's going to be like the comedic, the level of comedy on display, and like the like being fully committed to the bit while also firmly having their tongue in their cheek is just so good. It is such a fun vibe.
Looking forward to it. I'm definitely going to play it single player first, though, this time around, instead of what I did with Divinity. Although, with Divinity Original Sin 2.
I played both Divinity Original Sins in co-op, and as a result, playing them in that context, I don't even know what the plots of those games were. I do not like playing, trying to play either of those games, like first in 2-player co-op, then in 4-player co-op. They are so... like, just the process of playing with multiplayer and like managing that experience, that distracts so heavily from the actual like moment to moment sort of like experience you have with the game directly normally, that and the same thing happens with Wasteland 3 to some extent, where I'm just like, I don't remember most of what was actually happening in those games. I just remember playing with other people. That's like it's like the idea of trying to pay attention to the chatter in the background of a Borderlands game when you're in 4-player co-op. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck they're saying.
Something about a stallion.
And I didn't think that'd be how it happened, because I was like we would sit there and like pay direct attention to the dialogue, and like and we'd do the dialogue together and read out the choices that we're gonna pick and so on, and like, but like something about like the process of like playing Divinity Original Sin in 4-player co-op and recording it, I guess, and doing a show out of it, there's so many layers of distraction there that I just like, good luck remembering what an NPC was scene to scene, or what like the plot of each act was, or so on. I really only remember just the core gimmick that you were playing as 4 characters that were all the protagonists at the same time, and so it leads to like a conflict of who essentially gets to win the game and so on, and like that was clearly being telegraphed as being a thing that would eventually happen. And so like I was scheming in the background of like what my plan was going to be to kill my friends and so on, like that. It was very bird person with like fucking, I always wondered who would win if we fought. It's like, then you were always a bad friend. Like that scene summarizes what I remember of Divinity Original Sin 2 more than any of its actual events and plot. And I don't remember, I can't even begin to summarize what happened in that game. And I played all of it.
There is one thing that that the game sort of, there's only one sin that the game committed, which is, for me anyway,
the original sin.
It rewards you like having that sort of building that sort of characters where you're like, oh, I'm gonna secretly plot to go against my companions, or I'm gonna like take this item, prevent them from doing whatever mission here, or especially when it comes to allegiances with the different main characters and stuff like that. That you can definitely do that sort of stuff. However, there's one particular quest line that the game explicitly tells you, if you do this, you will die. And that is a big sin. I do not like that sort of storytelling.
Yeah.
Unless it's just like, aha, you did it, but now guess what? There's like this really cool moment, or like that you are rewarded by doing it. But no, the game, it just tells you the truth. It kills you. And
I do
and so,
remember that,
now we
like-
have to reload because of course we are, because we're playing multiplayer. Of course we're reloading.
I do
It's a
remember
bad
that
thing.
I played as Fane and the Skull guy, and
yeah.
out of all the
Fane's
existing
cool.
characters, like I think they added him last or something, and he was so
Yeah.
clearly the most interesting character out of all the options, like by a significant margin. He was like that they kind of, I feel like they somewhat reduced their own premise because they kind of gave the game a main character anyway.
Yeah. He's very central to the plot, I suppose. Yeah, I don't know, because it feels like that it doesn't have the same personality as other characters. For example, the pirate one, I forget. I don't know if he's a pirate, but there's like this dwarf, beardy person, and I remember him being really fun. He dies always in my playthroughs, but that's because I don't pick him. But I've seen a let's play where he's I'm not sure he's the main character, but it's like he's in there, and I thought it was really interesting as a character, and but it's just not central. The problem with Fane is that it's central to the plot line. It's a little bit like Baldur's Gate 2, and they bring Saravok into the party. They do bring Saravok into the. Oh, I shouldn't say that. Spoilers for Baldur's Gate 2. They do bring Saravok.
Spoilers for a 23-year-old game.
I mean, I haven't covered it yet.
But it's later on, and so they do it well enough that it doesn't ruin everything. But
The good news is I have a terrible memory for names.
Yeah, you will not remember.
how
who
could
this
you
is.
forget Saravok? He laughs. Do you not know? that he
Saravok D.
laughs?
Mikado.
Has
That
Keith
does
even
sound
played Baldur's
familiar.
Gate 1?
No.
Exactly. That's how he doesn't know who Saravok is.
I've had the ongoing thing of like, do I need to play both Baldur's Gates before 3? Like,
Yes.
when am I going to start
100%.
Yes.
that
Oh
process?
no, not for
You.
3. Not for 3 though.
The characters come back. What? Yes, you do.
Because then I'm just like, well, I guess I'm not covering Baldur's Gate 3, just like we didn't cover Yakuza 6, because I'm like, I got 500 hours
But
of backlog to get through.
The characters coming. It's not the same though. Baldur's Gate 2 is like like a sequel. It's like a second episode or sort of thing.
Yeah.
And in Baldur's Gate 3, I'm sure they're gonna say, "Hey, this is who comes back." Actually, I don't know who comes back.
Jahira's back.
It's fine. She's gonna be like, "Oh, neutral, balance, everything."
She's like
and
an
then her-
old lady. She's like a sassy mentor character.
I hope they
Did
remake.
Jahir, who's coming back in Baldur's Gate 3?
Wow. Keith has no idea what he's been talking about.
They're just
I hope they
names to
bring her-
me.
I hope they bring her soundtrack back and remake it. Although the composer for Larian passed away during the production of Divinity: Original Sin 2, so it's gonna be a different composer. Who is he actually gonna be? Let me check. Baldur's Gate 1 and 2
Couldn't tell
have
ya.
such interesting soundtracks, by the way. I am partial for Baldur's Gate 1's soundtrack, which is by a lesser known composer. But it's like it's old school, but it's I mean I'm you guys should listen to the soundtrack of Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 on repeat on YouTube, because I do that. The composer for it's Borislav Slavov, who is
Is a completely intelligible name that we all know how to spell inherently after hearing it.
I am sorry, but
I
yeah.
am sorry. So you sound like you were spliced
Apparent-
together to just misleadingly.
yeah, it's just like a soundboard mixing things up. He's the composer for Divinity: Original Sin 2. He actually like took over the original composer, who was Kirill Pokrovsky. No, Pokrovsky. That's the one. But yeah, so he has experience with the company, but it's not necessarily a big name. He did well. I thought thought the soundtrack was reasonable.
I've got an issue where just like I want to cover like the Baldur's Gate trilogy, and I want to get caught up on Yakuza, and I want to play Pillars of Eternity 2, but they're all just so fucking long, and every single time it's the least popular thing on my entire channel. Like, people do not want to watch these things really. So like if I focus on these things at the rate it would take to actually get caught up on half of them, I'm just like killing my channel. Like, I'm just like, that's why I gave up and cut my RPG slot in half. I'm just like, RPGs are gonna have the same amount of time as everyone else. You lost your privileges. I used to give you twice as much time, but y'all didn't fucking watch it, so we're not doing this anymore. It's only going to take longer than ever before to get through stuff like this, because it's just so time consuming, and people don't actually want to watch it, generally speaking.
Out of those three, I would order. You should do Baldur's Gate first, Yakuza second. What was the other option? Oh, the Pillars of Eternity 2. Right.
Yeah, I got to do Pillars of Eternity 2. I got to do Fallout 2.
Yeah, so if Baldur's Gate, the whole series, I think should be your priority. And then you should do Yakuza, and then you should do Pillars of Eternity 2. I do enjoy Pillars of Eternity 2, but Pillars of Eternity 1 is better, I think, in terms of narrative. And there's cool characters in Pillars of Eternity 2, though.
Keith's gonna do Baldur's Gate 1, and all the Zoomers that watch his channel are gonna be like, "What is this old stuff?" And then not watch for 2 years, 2 years straight.
It's the series like that. Maybe not for veterans of the games, but for new players, a blind playthrough of Baldur's Gate 2 is the comments I imagine is a mixture of people going, "Ooh, this is ugly. Terrible. What is this?"
Horrified at me,
and the other person is, "Why are you not using horrid wilting? Why are you not choosing
exactly?"
It'll be just like New Vegas, where I'm like, I don't even know why people are mad at me.
Yeah, they are absolutely.
What's happening? I didn't know what I did.
There's such difficult games to learn, to play really well.
Like,
you can get by.
I picked up the game and I beat it, and I thought that was what I was supposed to do. And it's like, no, you were supposed to. Why didn't you unlock fucking Jack Harkness's second companion quest? And I'm like, he exists? Who the fuck is that character? He had a second companion quest? How do you find that? Every older RPG I play, I can't even find the content that people care the most about. And it's like, and I'm like, I'll like in the background get hinted at that it exists, and be sneakily kind of trying to force it out without calling it out, because I don't. And then even then, I still won't find it. Like, I still like, where is it? Where are they hiding it?
Doesn't have that much problem though. Baldur's Gate doesn't.
Yeah, no. Baldur's Gate's a pretty straightforward game.
The most encouraging thing about old CRPGs is that they're actually usually much shorter than people expect CRPGs to be. Like how Fallout was only like 20 hours long.
But not Baldur's Gate. Though that's like
Baldur's Gate did take me 138 hours to finish.
And, yeah, Baldur's Gate 2 in particular is longer.
Oh no.
They're big games.
No.
But
they're as long as Pillars. Oh no.
They're longer.
That's not the issue, though. Is that the systems are they're not obscure to learn. Well, they are obscure to learn. You need to. There's a lot of things, like, for example, you find a lich in a cave and it does time stop, and you're like, "What happened? How do I beat this thing?"
Yeah.
You come back at full strength. Like all of your maximum level characters, everything just plus 75. The leech does time stop again and kills you, and it's like, wait a minute, why? But the leech is so easy to kill, and if you reload and saves come a lot, you can actually kill the leech so easily if he doesn't cast time stop. Which is my experience of playing Baldur's Gate the first time around. Saves coming to hell and back because I couldn't understand the systems. The spells are so crucial sometimes. Only for like major fights, but having a good spellcaster in your not a good spellcaster, but having a spellcaster.
I did admittedly soft lock myself in Fallout 1.
That's true. Yeah.
And I had to save scum.
But Fallout 1 and 2 are games where save scumming is correct and actually good.
I just soft locked myself because I got to the master and I'm like, I cannot defeat this fight. I cannot win this fight. There's no way.
Yeah, that's normal though. That's normal. Only really good players.
I also can't win talking through this fight. So I had to just save scum RNG through the conversation, because that's how the conversation works. And I just sat there save scumming it for like 2 hours until finally I got the correct combination of dice rolls to just win the conversation, which is not a great incentive on any level for anyone, honestly. Like,
You did it as difficult as possible. There's ways to make sure it's 100% though. But it's,
well, yeah, I know that.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
we did a whole podcast episode about just Fallout. I think we did 2 podcast episodes of me just venting afterwards. But like, one of my core frustrations with the original Fallout is that it has a speech stat that affects all of your speech, which like at the time was revolutionary, and I get that, but it hides your passes and failures so consistently that you don't really even know what your speech stat is affecting.
I think that's good.
All you really know is that you're just not impacting. All you really know is that you're just having horrible interactions with every character all the time. And so
from that perspective, it is bad.
Yeah,
but
just everyone hates you all the time, and you don't know why. And so when you get to the master and you realize that like, oh shit. Like what happened with me in the master is that I almost got it my first try, and I clearly had a hook to succeed, and so I thought I just picked the wrong option at like stage 7 of the conversation, but then I reloaded the save and tried again, and I couldn't get the dialogue I did last time to even appear, and I'm like, wait, the game's been doing this the whole time. It's just been secretly hiding and showing dialogue with every conversation at random. What?
It happens.
That's my problem. That's my problem with the speech stat, is that it shouldn't be random. It should be that like.
I don't think it actually is. That sounds very weird.
It is. That was my experience with it. I'm pretty sure it's random. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fallout New Vegas is the one that famously got rid of randomness and made it so that you have like, I'm just a dumb boy. Here's my dumb boy choice. But
I've done low charisma and high charisma in the original Fallout.
The way it works in Fallout 1 and 2 is that you have a minimum and a maximum skill check.
Oh, that's what it is. It's the min-max thing. I forgot about that. You are correct.
If you're in the middle of that, it's like a chance.
Yeah, like
but if you're
I will absolutely call this out. Like this is the one thing where I am an expert on something, even if I don't know the underlying code or whatever, because I fucking reload the same dialogue conversation for an hour and just watched it be impossible to follow the same choices. You could not make the same choices from attempt to attempt because they would just not be there, or he'd respond differently to the same choice, and you're like,
he does get pissed off if you're like 120 I think speech. He has a chance of getting pissed off. The thing is, those are old games made for a completely different world, really, in terms of RPGs. But the end result is if you replay, my experience is this: I replay Fallout 1 and 2. I haven't replayed it in a while, actually, but for many years I replayed it at least once a year. And I didn't, and because I wasn't recording, because I wasn't talking about it, because I wasn't following walkthroughs, I was just, having fun with the game, doing the quests and doing my things. And I remember like 7 or 8 and like my 7 or 8th playthrough of Fallout 1 in particular. I remember finishing the game and being like, oh, this character's min-maxed to hell and back. It's just like, I'm so good at this game. I have everything. And I could not get the master to just agree that his plan is bad, which is the point that Keith is making. And I could not understand what I did bad. And the reason why I didn't do that is because I somehow missed the one line of an option that you have to make with the Brotherhood of Steel, where they talk about the fertility of the super mutants. That is required if you don't do that. Yeah. And I never even knew that was required. I just did it because I clicked on every option. It's like, I found out years later that what it must have been. But I do recall reaching the end of Fallout 1 and being like, I guess I'm just gonna kill him. That's it. Which I did, obviously, but it's those are games for giving you. They're obscure on purpose to give you sort of different experiences. More times you replay it.
The playground conversation of everyone be like, this is what happened to my thing. Oh my god, how'd you get that? And it's like, oh no,
that's a myth. That's done. No.
What?
If people, I don't think people talk like that, because if you're a fan of RPGs,
I remember playing Pokemon as a kid, and not only did people all talk about their weird little experiences, legends were formed about like what kind of like secret legendary Pokemon might be in throughout the game, and you couldn't couldn't tell who was lying and who was telling the truth. And people just made up wild shit about how you would catch Pokemon that involved like gyroscopes that don't exist in the Game Boy. Like you'd have to like turn it upside down and press this. Like there was so much gossip about Pokemon and so on.
In RPG,
and, like,
that's different. That's
happen.
different than someone. That's different than someone having an actually different experience. That's just people lying.
But people in RPGs, people know that it's options and choices.
Yeah,
it's
but
like
the fact that you're going. The fact that you're going through the mysterious tall grass and there's all this mystery. Like, what is the full list of Pokemon? How would you know about what the entirety of the mystery of this game is and so on? And like, in that way, if people do have different experiences in a video game, they're going to talk about that. And in a similar way across all of video games, that's how creepypastas and shit started too.
I don't think that's
just
how
there's
they
this
talk,
element of like
though.
not knowing who's telling the truth or who's making things up, or before the internet was just just destroying all mystery about all games and just dumping its source code onto the internet, and here's all of it, the end, that's every voice on that was cut, the end. We used to really not know what was in games and wonder about like what is that secret Banjo-Kazooie level and stuff like that.
Well, but I think I cut you off,
and there
before
were
you
like
finished your
secret
point.
cow levels and everything, like
What? Well, not in Diablo 1, there wasn't.
yeah, but I mean, like there were secrets in games just to fuck with you and make you talk about it with people, because that was
the thing
kind
that
of like a marketing thing.
The thing that I think is a myth is the sort of situation, like I think it's Peter Molyneux that started that sort of trend of marketing their games, of being like, hey, this RPG here, people are gonna go to school and talk about, hey, in my game, so I was, did you see the bear? Did you see the bear in the game? And the other person is like, what bear? I got an elephant. What is this? Are we even playing the same game? What? And I think that's a myth. Because
it's totally a 100% real thing.
Counterpoint, it still happens now. The comment section, play any RPG with a bunch of choice and variability and weird outcomes where it's hard to see, but they're not super telegraphed that something's going to happen like 10 hours later because of this thing or whatever, or like this happens both in Let's Plays and in video essays about certain games. You just learn wild shit you never knew was even possible in some game you played 10 years ago, and then everyone's losing their fucking minds. Like, this happens all the time. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, this happened in my Jedi Survivor playthrough, because that game has randomized events in it. So someone was like, oh my god, wait, like, have you fought the like wandering Rancor yet? And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Yeah. And I just never got that random encounter. It's just a thing. And people were actively asking me while I was playing in my stream chat if it had happened yet. And it never happened once in the whole playthrough.
Even just elements of like, I played Majora's Mask and then I got to that one like tribal looking boss fight guy and killed him in 3 seconds with a bomb or something, and be like, what? Like this confused reactions when their understanding of how a game works just gets turned on its head because someone that either knows way more than them or way less does something really weird, and then a completely different outcome happens. Like, I didn't even know that series of really specific dialogue choices with that item in your inventory leads to like you get to fuck the bear.
Say the name of the podcast, by the way.
Wow, title drop. That's where he's gonna add the boom boom, and then the title smashes.
So
and
we roll credits, and that's the end of the playthrough. That's the end of our entire series after all this time.
But no, like, I mean, I do think that is a real thing. I mean, it's something that comes up in marketing pretty frequently. Is this idea of a diversified experience where like different things will happen for different people and it will spur conversation. It does. Yeah. And like even movies have been doing this for a very long time. The friggin' Clue movie does this. Like,
what? They have different versions and
so the Clue, did you not know this? The Clue movie, when it aired in theaters got different endings for the movie. So people watched the movie and then talked about it, and people argued over the endings, being like, oh no, like Miss White clearly did it. No, Professor Plum did it, because there were different endings for the movie.
The number of times I've gotten in an argument with somebody about a movie and was like, did we even watch the same film? And then knowing that there was a time where that was actually a genuine question is incredibly funny.
I mean, and famously, this happened just recently with the
Yeah.
new Spider-Verse movie, where there's a different cuts of the film that have slightly different jokes and slightly different things to make
people
the
are telling me that
experience different
somewhere
for
out
people.
there is a version of that movie without the horse scene. And I'm like, wait, what? He doesn't ride a horse through the base for like a minute in your movie. What? That's the scene. That's the scene that's most memorable for me because it's the werewolf was on the screen for 0.2 seconds. I was looking for that fucking werewolf Spider-Man the whole movie. He's on it for 0.2 seconds when he tries to jump at him when he's on the horse, and then immediately gets tossed aside. I'm like, you fuckers, you put him in the poster.
Wow, for 2 seconds, my god, that's like bait and switch.
No, it's literally like blink and you won't have noticed that he was there. He just lunges at him, and he doesn't even get a close up or any kind of like focus in the camera. He's like on the edge of the screen and kind of jumps at him and gets kicked away. And that's the entirety of the werewolf. But for all I know, someone else got the fucking werewolf cut where he's like a secondary character and they're best friends and they have a special handshake. And that's what it's like to play RPGs half the time. Like the Boone situation, like the whole in Fallout New Vegas, just all the different outcomes of how you can interact with that little T-Rex town. Like
that is such a
like
fun town,
and that town doesn't tell you how else things could go. So like it's only when I upload the videos and everyone's tearing their hair out, literally they're telling me they're literally screaming at the screen, is that I know that something else could have happened there.
How do you not RPG properly?
I do think you did an RPG properly there. Gotta be more observant, Keith. Gotta pick better options.
I've done that mission wrong myself.
I think from what I'm hearing, it's literally impossible for me to have solved the problem with my character.
Oh, yeah.
I think you can only. I think people have told me that the only way to solve that case is to like break into a safe that I don't have the skills to open.
Yeah, if you break into the safe, you
like,
can solve
even
it
if I found it, I don't think I would have been able to open it.
But breaking the safe is like
a super. You can just use like Mentats or something and do it.
I don't have a set. I intentionally didn't get my character any of the open things skills. He can't do computers or lockpicking.
Yeah, that's not too bad in that.
He just can't. Which means that certain things are gonna. I have to go find the other solution.
Actually, talking about that mission in particular, and I understand that this is tangential for people who haven't played the game and know the mission that we're talking about. I wish they didn't have the safe situation. I wish you couldn't just see the solution to the mission by opening a safe, because you can do that before you even get a mission, and it's just like.
No, but that's the beauty of it, is that you can find the trailhead after, like, you can find the trailhead at the end and then be like, okay, clearly something is happening here that I have clued into. That's interesting.
It's an okay way to handle it, but I think it would have been better if you actually were forced to deal with the characters.
This is kind of an ongoing debate that I'm having with myself, both because of Fallout New Vegas and Tears of the Kingdom, where like games will give you quests to go check out a place and do a thing for this reason, and this person wants this thing to happen. Or you could just walk to that place without knowing about that quest at all and essentially resolve the outcome of that quest. And in some of these cases, it amounts to being like a Mass Effect thing where it's like, oh, I overheard you wanted a Google torch, but I already have 3 of those because I happen to have completed the world too much or whatever in the background. Here is a Google. And you just have the thing and you hand it to them because you already have it. And it's just kind of, on that level, it's like some of those tasks or whatever, and you don't really feel like you missed much. But in some of these things, it's like, okay, this entire area has a very specific narrative context, and it ends with a choice that relies on you knowing this thing about that faction and that thing about that faction and what's going on there. And it's going to have wide-reaching ramifications for other parts of the world. You're going to see the consequences later. And in some of these cases, it's just like, I just walked into a vault and I clicked a button and didn't really understand what people were talking about, and now people are mad at me. Like you have like ongoing consequences with people, but like it's like for a bunch of people that you won't even meet until 20 hours after you press the button, and you're like, oh, sorry, someone told me what the choice was and I believed them.
Yeah, well, I think that's the interesting thing here, though, and I think that that's a problem. I think this is also just a Let's Player problem, and it's something that I deal with a lot now too, which is just like, in a perfect world where you are a player who is engaged in a game and you are actively engaging with its systems and its narratives and its mechanics, one should stop and think, do I know enough about what is being presented to me to both trust and understand what is happening and make a decision right now? Obviously, while you're making content for it,
even if you don't make the choice, it could just be disappointing to like, you know, do this whole zone and be like, and then you like back off on the choice at the end because you're like, wait a minute, hang on a minute. But you have still already like played through the area and then realized at the end there was narrative context that would have enriched your experience of going through this, but now you've kind of already like seen it all without really processing what you're looking at, and now you need to leave and come back. But even when you come back, you still won't like recreate the experience you would have had if this game was more directed and had like gave you the information in the order that was useful.
But even in games that are more directed, you still miss stuff. Like, and especially in terms of media literacy, people still misunderstand just the things that are being told to them anyway, and they have a fun time. It's not like it doesn't diminish the value they get out of the game. I mean, it does, but in the sense that the game is still valuable. RPGs are just a inherently messed up way of telling a story, and I think it's tricky to tell certain kinds of story because of that. And I just wish they you know,
we're more conscious of whether or not they are telling a story that fits the genre. Like,
100%. And I think, and that's why Novak is it Novak that we're talking? Yeah, it is Novak. Yeah, that's why Novak is such I think it is a brilliantly designed little town. Is because most of its missions, even like most of the missions are missions that you can approach from multiple angles and have a fun time discovering them for the first time, and then you come back and you do them quote unquote the proper way or like the most optimized way, and you still get something out of it by seeing, you know, the more involved way of dealing with the quest. Where, for example, the what's that thing in Fallout 3 where you go into the past, you find like the thing that you can use to shortcut the entire main quest, basically in Fallout 3, not the entire, but the first half of the game. Basically, you can find
the Pleasant Grove or whatever.
You can walk into a dungeon in the middle.
Yeah, you don't even have to go to Rivet City. You just walk directly to that one like vault or whatever.
Yeah.
Because I did that.
And I mean, I didn't do that because I knew. I was reviewing the game, so I prepared myself.
I did on purpose.
But I did it by mistake, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, this is bad. Reload. Come back.
Yeah. No, I followed the breadcrumb trail when I would play the game when I was like 17-year-old or whatever. But when I started my Patreon and I had a slot where people could nominate people that paid me like $25 a month could do. It was meant to be Let's Tries, but the idea was that one person could have me play one game for an hour, and I had this spreadsheet of like, here's this massive catalog of games I have keys for that you can like go through and whatnot, or just games I own in general. And so they could be so the idea was that for them to choose Let's Tries, but it quickly became a thing where some people tried to like have me play the same game again and again each month. So they're trying to make a backdoor like series out of a game via that. And one. This sucked, and I stopped doing it because of the fact that none of those games ever finished. They always would be like, I nominated Fallout 3 for 6 episodes, and then I just stopped, and now there's a weird incomplete series on the channel. And I'm like, well, I don't want to finish the series when they stopped doing it, because then I'm just like enabling this idea of like tricking me into starting a series, and then I have to follow through for months for a thing that you stopped doing and whatnot. But it also sucks to have an incomplete series that people then are like, why didn't you finish this? And I'm like, yeah, I don't like this system, we're stopping. And that's why I don't do that anymore. But because I inherently was like, okay, this is going to be short, obviously, I have to be careful, I immediately just looked up how to like skip as much as Fallout 3 as possible. So like I started the game and I did the blow up Megaton storyline for funsies, and then I was just like, okay, we're gonna do the fastest possible route to the narrative of going like, so like within like 4 hours of starting the game, I'm already like, I've blown up Megaton, and now I'm like killing everybody in this one 50s simulation and slaughtering them all, because I was doing the fastest route through the story, but also the fastest route through each of those quests, which is like, I'm not, instead of talking to all these people, I can just kill them all, and then the person that wants them all dead is happy. And we still wasn't fast enough. They still stopped nominating it after like 6 episodes, and the series never got finished. But it made me very aware of those skips where you could just be like, oh, this is all. The whole first half of this game doesn't have game logic forcing you to do things in this order. It's just a series of breadcrumbs that eventually lead you to your dad. So if you've played the game before and know where your dad is, you can just walk straight there.
You walk to where your dad is. Yeah.
Which of all the things in Fallout 3 is one of the most authentically Fallout things they do. Because it's like
I don't think so.
Because it's like just going west at the beginning of Fallout 1. You're like, oh, I can just go there immediately and just get to that plot critical spot without having to learn about it separately.
That's true, but you still, like, if you do that in Fallout 1, you can still go and do all the other stuff that you would have done anyway. Like, it doesn't cut you out from the content.
I think the issue with Fallout 3 there is that after you break that point, it's a little bit of a point of no return, so the game just assumes you did everything else.
Fallout 1 does have it does do super mutants invading towns and killing everybody in the town, and then all of a sudden you arrive in New Acropolis and it's just super mutants everywhere, which, guess what, happened to me on my like 7th or 8th playthrough, and I didn't understand what happened. I just didn't know.
And then he went to the water cool and you talked about it with everybody.
No,
that's
I didn't,
how they get you.
No, none of my friends liked Fallout. They were all losers. Yeah. That's why I started a Let's Play channel, so other people who liked RPGs could talk.
I'm gonna trick people into listening to me with video games now. I got them. They can't ignore me now.
Fallout 1 was like my third maybe not third, but like one of my very first few Let's Plays, which is like I was so in a rush to play.
Oh yeah, I remember back when I found your channel, I would sort by most popular, and it was like every single one of them was like the list of top-down CRPGs.
It still is. It still very much is. Yeah. Because I mean, they're timeless games in the sense that they're very dated, but they can't be dated any more than they are already. I think they were already pretty dated at the time. I think like a lot of people bounced back from Fallout 1 and 2. They weren't enormous successes in terms of
they made enough money. That's about the best way to describe it.
And then Interplay went kaboom because the management was absolute buck wild. And they went kaboom pursuing things that Fallout 1 and 2 wasn't. They just wanted consoles and chainmail bikinis and explosions. Literally, I'm not exaggerating. This is like in their design documents. Interplay exploded in the most amazing fashion ever. Just a story for the ages of how to ruin one of the biggest or the biggest publisher for PC gaming of the 90s. I'm not smart enough to talk about that though, so I will not develop on that.
It feels like RPGs in general are at their best just experimental train wrecks. Just falling apart at the seams, like barely crossing the finishing line as a functioning vehicle.
As long as they're done with gusto and spirit and like honesty, because if you're just gonna be half-hearted, it comes across as disingenuous.
No, you gotta be all committed, like Vampire the Masquerade having entire, not one, but multiple alternate character types that completely change how the game works moment to moment in a way that
more games should be like Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. Yes, this is correct, Keith.
Yes,
we have been saying this for 10 years.
I just wish that a lot of that game was like just more playable moment to moment. But the fact, like,
we all like
the fact that you can play that game in a way, and I really should have. Well, I should at some point too. Was just like I should try to experience. I wish I'd done it more back to back, but Vampire fucked me on this by blocking my entire playlist for copyright reasons. But like I was looking forward to experiencing Vampire the Masquerade the way I did Pathologic, which is by playing it 3 times and having those wildly divergent experiences from each campaign. And like in Vampire's case, it has like the Nosferatu playthrough and it has the Malkavian playthrough that like. These are characters that basically don't get like you shouldn't play them first. Like they don't give you the intended.
You shouldn't.
They don't give you like an understandable.
I actually disagree with that.
I
think you can play Malkavian first. And here's my thing with it. People say playing the game as a Malkavian spoils the game because your voices in your head tell you all the secrets.
Yeah,
but it doesn't really, because you're gonna hear the fucking crazy voices in your Malkavian's head and not know what the fuck they're talking about.
Yeah.
Which is the quintessential Malkavian experience of living as a vampire, being clairvoyant, and going mad because you don't understand your own clairvoyance.
I just
So
haven't
the
done
very
it
first-
before, so I just assumed that the Malkavian voice stuff, or however the hell they process the world around them, is just so disruptive that you probably can't tell what's happening very well.
So I will sort of temper your expectations here and let you know, like, the Malkavian run, you can totally understand what's happening and like play the game like normal. It's like playing with Wild Wasteland on New Vegas turned up to like 11. Like, it's just a lot of really weird stuff happens. A lot of weird dialogue happens. But the thing is that people will say like, oh, you like won't understand what your dialogue choices are because your dialogue is all written as like gobbledygook. But the thing is that like the way that the dialogue choices in Vampire are laid out, it's always like good option, negative option, sarcastic option, weird option, intimidate, seduce, convince, or like persuade.
There's some quests where you can lock yourself out.
You absolutely can. But what I'm saying is like, but for the most part, if you know how to play a video game, you can play the Malkavian run just fine. Like, people overstate the insanity of the Malkavian run. That being said, it is a incredibly wacky, wild time that is very different from a regular playthrough for a variety of reasons. But it's not the incomprehensible, game ruining, you can't play it on your first playthrough perspective that like a lot of people seem to sell it as. So if people out there want to play Vampire the Masquerade and they've heard about how fucking awesome the Malkavian route is and they don't want to play as like a goddamn Bruja for the first time through, just play as Malkavian, dog. You'll have a great time. It's an amazing game. Now, the only character I suggest not playing on your first route is Nosferatu. Yeah, and that's because the Nosferatu route, the story is the same, but there are restrictions on how you can interact with the game world. So not only are you having to avoid the things that get you in front of a lot of content in the game, you are opting out of playing the game a very free form way, and you're putting a lot of restrictions on yourself.
It's basically like hard mode, and you also lock yourself out of a couple of things, like the normal hideout. You do get another, but like there's a lot of things that you just usually you can go up to people and chat in the bar or whatever. But a Nosferatu is all
you got to navigate via them sewers.
Yeah, I
just wanted to play as the Ulu tribe.
The Ulu tribe, yeah. Unfortunately, they don't know.
Yeah, there were signs all along. People just didn't connect all the dots.
I mean, gangrels are cool. They're the one vampire tribe that isn't always bad with werewolves, which is cool. I could talk about the darkness all day, dog.
Why do you not like the Bruja though? Why? The Bruja
they're bland. They're bland and annoying. They're quintessential Tumblr discourse, Twitter revolutionaries. I hate them. They're so boring.
Are you forced to play as a Bruja in the previous vampire game?
I don't remember.
Redemption?
Yeah.
I played Redemption
probably
once and I didn't finish it.
That's old Clan Bruja though. That's very different.
Oh, it's
doesn't that the gimmick of that one that a bunch of time passes to the modern day?
It does. It has multiple
eras,
time zones.
It's just I was just joking that like the Vampire the Masquerade is one of the 500 times where I picked the obviously furry option for years without acknowledging it.
You're just normalizing it. It's okay.
No, that's fine.
I gave you all the clues you needed, Mr. Inspector. Why didn't you catch the murderer?
In Morrowind, you were. What was your name? What was the name of your character in?
I'm always a Khajiit in Elder Scrolls.
What was his name? What was his name?
I don't know his name.
You don't remember his name? I don't know. I liked his name. I remember my name.
100 years ago.
My Let's Play he's called.
Why would I remember the protagonist of one of my I was trying to search it on my profile. I typed Morrowind. Morrowind.
That's a good mod.
I'm just
'cause
being facetious, but I'm like, why would I remember the name of the character I made in my
your
most
character's
one of
name
my
was
most
Pat
played games on
Yelchin.
Steam ever?
Pat Yelchin, that's the one. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I named him after Anton Yelchin because he died recently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember why his name was
funny.
Pat.
I played on my Let's Play. I played as like a Jeet, and I named him Notices Your Protuberance. But unfortunately, that's an Argonian name because of the way you
It is an
translate their name.
Argonian name.
You
And I only
fool.
realized that halfway, like 3 or 4 episodes in, and I was like, okay, retroactively, my Khajiit was raised by Argonians. And that's why his name is like that.
Retroactively.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Pat
Oh,
Yelchin.
man.
Yeah, I do remember that name now.
I also misclicked in Dragon Origins. I also misclicked. I wanted to be a mage, and I unfortunately misclicked and went for rogue, and only realized at the end of the 2nd episode that I wasn't a mage. And I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Retroactively, this guy wanted to be a mage all along.
I just try not to use the same name over and over again. So I try to make up a new name every time I play basically anything that isn't
You
like
say that
a visual
everybody's
novel or
called
whatever.
Marrow now. Marrow is everywhere.
Visual
Everything
novel
is
characters
Marrow.
are sometimes, but a lot of games I'm using the default name in those cases. But I don't know, I'm trying to remember where I've used Marrow.
Well,
I think I've been using
Oh,
Marrow in games where you don't roleplay,
That's a good call.
like Monster Hunter. Like
Or
who
Zomboid.
cares? Who cares what your name is in
My
Monster Hunter?
thing
It's just an
there-
identifier. There's no reason to roleplay. But like
Yeah, that's true.
like in a Shadowrun, I was Grotto.
oh yeah, Grow.
I've had
That's a good Shadowrun name. That's a good Shadowrun
I've had a
name.
huge list of like unique names. And like every time they let me name myself in Zelda, I try to come up with a rock name that's related
That's
to the
good.
gimmick of that game.
Brick
We've
was
had-
my favorite name.
Yeah, we had that's very yeah. I had Chert and I had
Chert was pretty
I had
cool.
Chert and Wolfenite and a bunch of other fun ones, and then fucking
Micah.
I think
Micah was good.
yeah, and Micah, and then we get to fucking I think it was Ocarina of Time. I'm just like his name's Brick.
Yeah.
I generally just try to keep lore appropriate names. Like I'll look up naming conventions for stuff, or with Dark Souls they use a lot of Irish names, so I usually give my characters Irish names or titles. Stuff like that.
I had
Sullen Yannick is one I
I
use
had a
a
merch
lot.
idea. I just remembered that I haven't thought about it in ages, which is that it was inspired by Game Grumps, and that they made a shirt that's just all the stupid names that their characters were in all the Zelda
that's
games, because they named their characters like Strumpf and stuff like that, and they just put them all.
yeah.
They just put all the stupid names end to end and like vertically, and sold that as a shirt. I'm like, that's kind of a dumb shirt, but it is a funny joke. But I'm like, what if I did make like a Zelda themed shirt that was like,
It's just rocks though.
yeah,
That's the
no, I'm saying
mineralogy.
like, what if I made a
Sure.
Zelda themed shirt, but not their idea? I mean, like, it's actually the rocks that I named all the characters, but then arranged
that could
into
be
like a Zelda iconography thing. I'm like, that could be a fun sort of like, this is just a cool Zelda shirt out of context, but in context, like there's like a weird background to it all. And then I never followed up on it. And then Spring started doing NFTs, so I deleted my my merchandise store. I
And
now
then
have,
FTX went bust, and they
Yeah.
all got egg on their face.
but I haven't had merch for a while, and also just merch was less fun back then to some extent. But I
Don't
do
worry,
have a new
Spring is
merch
probably
store
doing
with
AI
nothing in it.
generated
I
t-shirts.
have been let into fourth wall, and my plan was I'm working with someone to design a shirt, and it's more fun to think about merch once you have a persona, because furry merch is way more fun to think about making. And I'm planning on trying to launch one during one of my next video essays or something, like launch a new shirt and direct people at a new store, and then pay the artist. I'm already commissioning the art in the first place and paying them for that, but I was going to also try to pay them. I was going to look back at how much the shirt made like 3 months after the video came out, and then pay them like 30% of that. Like a thing to do. So maybe
Yeah,
we'll have,
I
we'll have shirts
imagine-
again, and then maybe I'll cycle back to that fucking Zelda idea, even though who knows who cares anymore.
I imagine I mean, wearing the shirt on a video essay is a pretty good way of selling merchandise. Although it kind of works retroactively. Like I have shirts from some channels like Vsauce or Gamers Next or something like that, and I just bought it because I thought the t-shirts looked cool when I looked at their store. Actually, for Vsauce is because I had their loot box sort of thing. But whenever they wear the T-shirt on their videos, I just notice it because I have the shirt, and I was like, "Hey, he's wearing my shirt." Like that's my immediate thought, rather than the other way around of like he's
You
wearing
forget
merch.
that
No,
it's his shirt and you're
I forget,
wearing
yeah.
his shirt.
100%, 100%. Yeah. I don't own one of your purple. Well,
And it's gone.
it doesn't
now.
have to be purple. Yeah, the sort of.
Now it's a limited
columnar
exclusive. Now
jointing.
it's worth more if I die. my columnar jointing shirt that I designed myself and printed.
Mm-hmm.
It was a all wraparound shirt and all that. That was the whole thing. I know Marty and Ashley, they had the print. They were still using the masks of that from throughout all the pandemic. It was weird to see them out in the wild, like somebody else having them in person. But merch is weird.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely pick up on it when I notice that, like, when I'm watching a YouTube video and I see somebody else's merch in the YouTube video that's not the person that I'm watching.
No, yeah.
Like, you'll see Jack in Red Letter Media videos, and he's wearing a CGP Grey shirt, and there are episodes of Folding Ideas where he's wearing Movies with Mikey's merch, like the Talk More whatever, the one that's like it's a bunch of text with a purple background, kind of like encouraging understanding and interaction and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Like might be like say less, listen more, or something like that. I don't actually remember what all the words are, but I immediately spot it when it pops up. How's everyone?
I was gonna say, Folding Ideas hasn't released the video in a while, and then I checked, and I've seen all of his videos, but it's just I don't.
Those are not
it's just that I
contradictory.
forget about them. I'm like, what is this? The Central End thing? Of course, I forgot about that one. It's
I've watched it like 3 times.
Yeah, I did not enjoy that one. I watched it to the end, but it's such a videos about things that are bad kind of upset me.
Sure.
Unless well, I suppose it doesn't. Not always. If it's Folding Ideas is very serious, so he doesn't make fun 100% of the time of the thing. He's just explaining the thing a lot and then makes fun a little bit. But if it's like Jenny Nicholson, where he's making fun all the time, then I like that.
Folding
It's just
Ideas
riveting.
feels like a personal attack sometimes, because it's like he knows so many of the videos are about exactly things that I'm familiar with. Like, I grew up watching Ralph Bakshi's Lord of the Rings like over and over and over and over again on VHS, and like I have my history with World of Warcraft and so on, and like he was covering NFTs while I had family members that were getting into NFTs, so it was just like I've been like along for the ride the whole time. So, and I also like I used to watch Nostalgia Critic, and so like I have worn out that video on the wall. I have watched that video on the wall several times, despite not ever watching Nostalgia Critic's review of The Wall, and much more importantly, never watching The Wall. And it's not because I'm like, obviously it's like, it's YouTube, it fills a different niche. I'm not sitting down to watch a movie and then choosing to watch YouTube instead, but like algorithmically they know if enough time, after a few months pass, they can loop back and suggest me H-Bomber Guy and Folding Ideas videos again and be like, yeah, but do you want to listen to it again? And like they get and like I'll you know, and I'll collapse. I'll give in frequently enough. Like 2 days ago before the trip, I did listen to his WoW Classic video about the sort of like the myths behind the entire idea of wanting WoW Classic and all that, and like what it's supposed to even accomplish, and how the games are even supposed to be different.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And how they are different, but not in the ways that people actually talk about them. And then I just fucking just kept that ride going and just went directly into why it's rude to suck at Warcraft, which is also all stuff I'm intimately familiar with as somebody who raided in both Burning Crusade and Battle for Azeroth. I'm like, yeah, and I follow this entire fucking video, and I know exactly what this is, and it's very interesting to talk about what like I love that video because both those videos get into World of Warcraft as a piece of living history, because it's a MMO that's been around for so long that it has not only has it changed over the years, but much more crucially, the world around it has changed, and that has affected its not only its design but the players themselves. And that's like part of the whole thing about the classic WoW is the whole fact that like it's like this it's like you can like this Hobbiton thing, like you can never go back home. Like they can give you classic WoW again, but you won't play it like you played classic WoW. So in function, you can never have classic WoW again. You will never be 2006 you playing that game again, even if they literally give it back to you. Like it's impossible because the world around it changed, and it's all full of guides and mods, and everyone got everything optimized down to a science. So like now people just speed run that game over and over again because they can ever go back. It's that stuff's I'm fascinated by that stuff. That's great. Those are great videos. I don't even know how you think about making them.
That's the problem with Diablo 4 for me, specifically Diablo 4, but Diablo as a franchise and action RPGs in general. I mentioned it before that my experience about Diablo 2 is very single player driven and not optimized at all. And so very personal in respect to the moment to moment gameplay is just like, slow. It's slow gameplay. But the thing is,
no version of Diablo 2, no version of the Diablo franchise can ever recapture the specific context in which I got hooked to Diablo 2 when I was like 12.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's not.
And
the game is an interactive thing,
as much as people want to claim it is. That's the issue. Is that people don't get the feeling they got before, and then they blame really strange things on that feeling. But half the time, it just doesn't. Like people can't struggle to logic out why the thing is. Like that's one of the things that motivates me when I write video essays is just trying to actually decode what causes feelings and what causes these things to happen. And like why things don't work on a more granular layer, because people's gut reactions to things are so incorrect all the time about their own stuff, and it's like it's very interesting to unpack that.
The thing with ARPGs in particular is that those feelings come from, like, as a whole, generally the act of leveling up, and it's something that MMOs kind of. I am not a very experienced MMO player, so maybe I'm off the mark here. But I think MMOs sort of surpass that a little bit. By it's not so much about the leveling up process; is all about the end game and sort of the grind and the sort of doing the actions that they have an objective, but you also enjoy the process of getting like this rare drop or beating this dungeon for 500 times to get whatever mission or something like that, because MMOs sort of are the original daily quests in Overwatch. They're the sort of the habit forming style of RPGs that Diablo could never be, and Diablo 4 is that it just tries to be the habit forming in IRPGs. But the problem is, I think MMO solved the habit forming problem of role playing games or action role playing games in particular.
That's one of the interesting things about Diablo games as they come out, is that like people go into them now expecting an end game while simultaneously saying that Diablo 2 is the best one. Which no end game. Exactly. Like famously, if you played Diablo 2, you never saw a level 99 character. Because if anyone ever hit the level...
If you played it online, you did.
No, I played the game. No, I played the game online all the time, and I never saw a level 99 character. See, Colonel saying he had one... Colonel saying he had one is different. Colonel saying he had a level 99 character is different. But
you never saw him. I still have to say,
yeah. But like those characters, what happens is that because the entirety of the Diablo 2 experience was motivated around just grinding and leveling up characters, and also then like one of the core ways that they try to make that game appealing long term is by having it just reset every few months and like, okay, start over, fuck you, like which would be horrifying in an MMO to have to start over every few months. But in Diablo, that's how they get you going, because the act of leveling and optimizing your build and leveling and like getting your habits down and so on was so core to the experience that an end game was essentially irrelevant. And if you ever did hit level 99, you just fucking threw that character in the garbage. Like, you didn't delete them, but they're like in a museum now because you just made another character and started again. That was how everyone played Diablo 2.
This is so far from how Diablo 2 is actually played at a high level. I played competitive Diablo 2 ladder for so long. Like, Diablo 2 is all about picking, like, once again, there was no end game built into Diablo 2, but there was end game meta, and that's what like Diablo 2 PvP was all about, and that's what people played. There are whole forums on the internet dedicated to this. This is my experience with Diablo 2, was registering for third-party forums that had their own currencies that you bought to trade for equipment online as a facilitated third-party marketplace, so that you could have your level 99 characters kitted out for your build so you could engage with those systems more appropriately. That's what high-level Diablo 2 is and was like, and that's what its enduring legacy is. That's why these games are this way. Like, so you saying
that's
never
completely
saw
foreign to my experience of playing that game for like 2 years.
That is because, and I think that this is what I'm getting at here, which is like, it is very possible to play Diablo 2 as a leveling experience. I am telling you right now, I can get a character to 99 in Diablo 2 in 3 hours. It is not a time commitment. It is not a significant portion. That is not a significant portion.
I think this gets back to our previous
gameplay.
Conversation about how, like, before the internet was so homogenized, there was no such thing as a universal experience with the game and so on, and like there was this lack of flattening, so people did have different experiences, I guess. But like, I played this game for literally years and I never saw level 99 characters. I'm not being facetious at all. Like, and everyone I ever talked to, they really were just like, they would just make characters that sound like fun builds and start over again. And most of them, like if you hit level 99, that character was basically dead to you. But most people seem to just hit like level 85 and be like, that last bit's too much of a pain, and then they just start over again, because like they're mostly just doing fucking bail runs, and it was just a bizarre
like doing stuff like bail runs and stuff. That's what my experience of that game is.
No, I'm talking about that experience as being the leveling experience. I'm not even saying like adventuring.
But you only do that for like half a day and then you're done.
People did it all the fucking time.
You were always doing it to build more characters, but it always had the end game. Like, that was the point of doing it.
The specific loops you had to go through of like, in each act, there was the specific threshold that you had to accomplish so that then somebody could drop a town portal after that. Like, you have to do this one, like you like skip to this part of Act 2 and then do this, interact with this one thing, and now you can do the ending where, and it's all being facilitated by just some sorceress with C3PO map hack and just skipping through it all. I'm saying like people like sincerely would just loop through leveling characters and trying different builds for ages. Like, that was totally normal.
Yeah, but you also used those builds when they were done to play PvP, which was the point of actually getting a character. So like, I'm right now, I just Googled D2 forum, and literally the top result was D2 JSP, which is the forum that all of this stuff was facilitated on, where people did things like crazy runs, like all the people that do bail runs and do the currencies and like sell all their crap,
but I think
just to get their builds to 99 so they can PvP. This forum has 6,000 active users logged in right now.
I think a noticeable difference here is that this is self-driven behavior.
Yes.
So Diablo 2, its appeal was self-driven behavior. Like, both the things we're talking about is somebody like given a sort of lack of meaning, and that the game only really had that much to it. It did really, Diablo 2 has shockingly little to it overall as far as like a long-term game to play, but people did play it extremely long-term. And what you ended up doing was your own choice. Essentially, you found your own meaning in that. And the response
that's what I was like about to get into here, is that like these games are not built like that anymore. They're now built with a cogent, specifically
each of them
structured
is built
end
to
game.
have an end game with structure and incentives. It's supposed to have built-in hooks to make you play forever. which is inherently not what Diablo 2 was.
Yes.
And why it worked in the first place. But at the same time, people expect it. Like I've had conversations, because my brother is a huge Diablo nerd. Like he's obsessed with these games, and I fell off so hard, so long, like more than half my life ago, and I'm not really interested in going back in that way. Like for me, the fun of Diablo is like it'd be cool to like hang out with 4 people on console in Diablo 3 and like Gauntlet Dark Legacy your way through the game, and then be like we beat it, and then put it down and be like that was fun as a hangout experience. But that's not what Diablo is for most people. But like. He's been playing every single one of those like Diablo 2 mods and so on that changed the game fundamentally. Yeah. And one of the things that he's talked about immediately, I was like, oh yeah, what do you think about Diablo 4? I was like, and he's frustrated by how underdeveloped the end game is. And I'm like, but that's not what Diablo is. That's what World of Warcraft is. That's not what Diablo doesn't specific. That's the hugest difference between these two games, because they're both about just leveling up a character and grinding. But then like fundamentally, Diablo 2 just has it has normal, nightmare, and hell, and those are new game plus as far as playing the level content goes, but it's not new game plus as far as like your character goes. Like that's just the arc of playing one character, looping through the game 3 times, and it gets increasingly intense with like resistances and stats and all that. But like then the game just runs out of game. You beat Baal on hell, and you're like, I guess I did it. Like there's not really anywhere else to go. There's not really anywhere else to go after that besides looping and so on, both as the same character or other characters. But like World of Warcraft and all that are like
Frozen Tundra,
original World of Warcraft was about the end game impenetrable barrier that was trying to raid. And modern World of Warcraft is about having infinite parallel loops that you can do alternatively to raiding to also keep you hooked and playing every day at all times, outside of those like outside of those like 4 hours twice a week part. Like it's about adding even more of this forever. And now people go back to Diablo and expect the sequels to do that, while also expecting to recapture what they liked about Diablo 2, and those are anathemic ideas.
Yes, they are. And well, I think part of it too is that like something like Diablo 2 has 20 years or whatever to establish its, like, to develop its end game. So the idea of your brother being like, I don't like Diablo 4 because its end game isn't particularly developed, it's not fleshed out yet. It's like, bro, like, you're working on literally 23 years of ladder resets. What are you talking about? Of course it's not this well developed yet, even with it being a cogent part of the game now that is designed into the game. You're in season 1 of an ongoing meta. And this gets to something that's kind of interesting. We're a month into Street Fighter 6 right now, and finally the pros are like putting out their tier lists for patch 1, and it's just like we are getting into discourse where like a bunch of people with 30 days worth of experience in a game are being like, yeah, well, based on, 35 years of Street Fighter, 2, 3, 4 experience, these characters are probably the best. And then like literally this morning, like we're discovering new tech that fundamentally changes how the game is played on like a basic level. So it's like, it's so hasty, I think, to immediately make, calls towards something's development and like compare it especially to the past and to these more set and explored metas in games that have these sort of engaging loops, when something is still directly ongoing and in a lot of ways still developing. Like it's like, how do you really make these calls? I don't know if many people really can.
I don't. My problem with, I think maybe like again, I just come from a very specific place, but I really don't like the approach of the top-down control of endgame. That Blizzard does specifically with Diablo 4, but it's not just that, because Path of Exile is the same thing. It's because it's like, here's what you have to do. Well, no, sorry, have to do is not the term. Here's what you can do at endgame. Enjoy. And I'm like, but give me more of a sandbox experience. because that's how I play Diablo 2 specifically. It's just sort of I made my own fun. I sort of found my own hunting grounds and looked for my own items and looked for my own
Well, I think that
meta,
actually
because I didn't
that's
have I didn't
interesting.
follow guides specifically.
Because I think it brings up the idea of like our games. I think that a lot of games are designed, as you said, from like the top down around this end game experience, which is interesting because I find a lot of modern games now are designed for this high level end game engagement, but they're not designed around their high skill players, which is a very weird thing to do when the high skilled players are the ones that are most engaged in these end game and in these high engagement sort of loops, right? And so what do I mean by that? So like, for example, and I'm going to use fighting games as an example here because this is, I think, the best way to quantify this. Fighting games are generally not balanced around your younger brother. So like the move that you two put out, you know, you and your brother playing on your couch, he picks Zangief and he grabs you 500 times and does half your health bar with every single SPD. That is not overpowered. It doesn't matter how overpowered you on your couch think it is. Zangief is actually probably the worst character in most Street Fighter games, because he doesn't have the tools to survive the rest of the game's systems, which are exploited in tandem on a super high level. So when I say the game is designed for high-level players around high-level play, and that's what structures the game, it actually opens the rest of the game up for interesting interactions, because it means something that might seem really overpowered at a low level is actually not very overpowered and can be dealt with. Whereas games like Diablo, where they want to funnel every single player into this end game, is going to try to balance around its lower level players. But what that's going to do is introduce system issues on a very high level, where when players become skilled at games and when players do become engaged with these high-end end game systems, they begin to see the cracks in those systems form because their knowledge outpaces the, for lack of a better word, craftsmanship of the systems that they have studied. And so it's interesting to see these games like something like Diablo 2, which has a very masterful sort of quote unquote pseudo end game experience that has been developed over the course of 23 years of incredibly knowledgeable players, and the game sort of being balanced just around what is possible. And in some cases, not even balanced around that, just kind of inherently sort of just exists, versus something like a Diablo 4 where like they really want every single person to be clicking forever, so they're trying to just like make the immediate gut reaction to certain things feel good. And I think even in some senses games like Overwatch and games like Destiny and stuff have also suffered problems with this, where it's like you need to choose who you're going to balance for, and you need to accept that, like, yeah, sometimes if you really want a system to be as engaging as you know we used to think systems as being back in the old days, you're going to alienate some people, and that's okay. Like, that just is the way things need to be in order to have like a cogently well-designed thing. And not balancing around the limitations of that will just cause a system that kind of falls apart and feels really uninteresting to engage with.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's why sandbox games are easy for. They're not necessarily easy to balance. When I say sandbox games, I do mean sandbox games, but more sandbox styled games. I think like Kenshi. Fighting games. No, well, I keep going back to Minecraft in my head, but I think even fighting games are like that. You can just, you know, you fight and you figure
you have your tools and you can use them.
Yeah, but they're accessible in a very interesting way, because the player is, you can't really unless, well, I suppose it depends on how you, well, again, the multiplayer just changes things so much. But
yes,
you're not, when you learning Minecraft, or you're learning any game that is sort of open-ended in terms of what you can achieve with the tools that the game gives you. You can only really dream as big as, or not too much bigger than your skills are, at least at the beginning. And and the moment you start to dream bigger or so much bigger than your skills are is the moment you lose interest in the game, I think.
Yes,
or either that, or you're
I
just
think so too.
really good at learning as well, because you could just be like, okay, this is gonna take me years, or however long, but I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna reach this height. And I think shooters are really good for that, because you can dream of being amazing at shooting, but it's not like it's gonna ruin your experience. The fact that you're not necessarily the best shooter, because you're still playing. If matchmaking is good, you're gonna still be playing against people who are more or less around your level. But it's about the vision that you have as a player and what you can put to the test, or you can put into practice. But when a game like Diablo 4 comes in and says you have nightmare dungeons, you have tidal waves or whatever they're called, and now season 1 is all sorts of, it's just names that they come up for mechanics, and I'm just like, why? It just feels like homework, honestly. Just it's, do you know? I mean, you do probably. I complained that Diablo 4 was going to be a game where all you had to do was the best way to play the game was just grind the same dungeon over and over again because of level scaling, and then when you reach the level that you're supposed to be, you can go and finish the main quest and just beat the game like that. Diablo, I'm sorry that I said Diablo 2 before, but I mean, I'm talking about Diablo 4. Diablo 4, actually, the moment or the first time you beat the main quest, you never have to beat it again. All the characters after that, you can just skip the main quest and just proceed to grinding the dungeons that you're going to grind and reach maximum level. So you don't even need to beat the game. It's just like, I mean, I'm not inherently opposed to that, but it's so weird. That is so weird to me.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree. I think it's really strange. And like, I don't know. One of the other things that just kind of came up when you were saying that I think is interesting is this idea of like, you always see people online critique people who are like, leave a negative review of a game after putting 2,000 hours into it, where it's like, you'll see the Steam reviews and it's like, I've played Warframe for 2,000 hours and here's why it's bad. And people are like, bro, if you played 2,000 hours, why are you leaving a negative review? Clearly you liked it. But I'm like, in my head, like, that person, I fully understand where they come from and I trust and respect their opinion. And the reason is because exactly kind of what I said earlier, this idea of like systems not scaling with how much you know about them. Games right now, I think, are very built around this idea of a loop and funneling you into the loop. But once you're actually in it, it begins to wear thin. And this is why I fall off of every single one of these like end game loop type of games with all these, like, as you said, like tidal waves and hell dungeons and, like shit like that.
Yeah.
I just like, after you become a certain degree of good at them and learn about them, there's nowhere else to go. And because the game is so built around and structured around presenting you things to do rather than things just kind of existing to do, you end up maximizing your system's understanding. And I think that's why nowadays you have so many of those like people who, again, have been like, I've played 4,500 hours of Diablo through Path of Exile. Here's why it's a bad game. It's like, yeah, it's not meant. You unfortunately spun out the flywheel, and like you have learned too much about the system and you've seen through the matrix now and it doesn't work. And that's really weird. And that's a really bad player experience, I think, to cultivate, even if it's really good for onboarding people onto your game and making your game make money in the short term. It really kills high level expression. And I think that's kind of what will ultimately one day, like from an archival perspective, kind of kill a lot of these really popular games of right now. Is like, they're just built to spin until they spin out. And then once they spin out, there's nothing more there. There's nothing more to play. People are still, I was on Fightcade last night and there were 600 people in the matchmaking for Third Strike. People are still playing Third Strike when Street Fighter 6 just came out. I do not think people will be playing Destiny 2 in 10 years. You know, like I don't think that's going to be a thing for a variety of reasons. But I don't think 20 years from now we're going to have people really still being like, "Oh yeah, this is the one." Cuz they're not built for that. They're not built to just be games as they are. They're built to funnel you through things in the moment and then hope that you don't pay too close attention to notice the passage of time slipping and your own experience becoming more knowledgeable and stuff as it goes on.
Mm-hmm. I think
so much
games.
There is on some level like so much competition for attention that it's like a struggle to capture it in the first place. So that kind of is their end goal. Like they don't really care beyond that point.
They don't. Yeah, absolutely.
They want you to be engaged right now.
Yeah, because you'll pay for microtransactions right now.
Yep.
Unfortunately for them, I will wait until the Game of the Year edition.
Oh,
I don't
show
discount.
them.
Damn.
They said they weren't gonna have a Game of the Year edition. They did.
When's the last
And
time
then they did?
What I'm trying to think. When's the last time Game of the Year editions really happened?
Well, I was thinking of Witcher 3, but
yeah, which was ages ago. But like there was such a wave of Game of the Year editions for like a decade, and I feel like they're not constantly in like being pushed
they're
out
not a thing
endlessly.
anymore.
There's like they're more likely to be called a
because
director's cut, but even those are like much more much less common now.
They changed the name.
I think that they're still pretty. I think they're still happening. I'm pretty sure they are.
Did they sell? Did they ever sell a Resident Evil 7 Here's Everything box?
Yes, Gold Edition.
Okay.
Did they have DLCs for Resident Evil 7?
A lot.
Yeah.
Oh,
they had like 5.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they did the Mia story thing and more.
Yeah. And the punching one, the sequel to Breakout. Everyone's been waiting for more Breakout.
But in particular, I was thinking of Diablo 4.
And there's one where you just play blackjack and then get your fingers cut off.
I'm not going to entertain buying Diablo 4 until partly because it is 70 euros or $70, and I think that's outrageous. No, games should not cost that much if they have microtransactions. But also because I might as well just wait until the content is there and there's DLCs, and then I buy them on discount. Because why would I do the other thing? No. I mean, if I were a tremendous fan of the systems as they are right now, I would, but I'm not a tremendous fan.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm completely in the same boat. Like, I don't really want to buy in. A lot of games nowadays, I just truly feel like early access has become so normalized that we're just getting games that release in early access now, and I just don't want that. I don't want to play games that are unfinished.
We went from a decade of early access games to a decade of games that people just stopped labeling early access but still are.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Like, I want to play things that are finished, please. Give me a product that I can consume and then sit and dwell on, not something that will continue to change after I am actively playing it. And of course, I don't mean in the sense of like a Street Fighter having a fighter pass. Like, having a seasonal esports game is whatever. I'm not actually bothered by that. What I'm bothered by is like every fucking game releasing and then No Man's Skying itself into a completely different video game 2 years down the line that I then feel bad for not actively playing all the time. Like, it's like, God damn it. Why can't we just have like a fully finished release?
Yeah, you get stuck in a trap where it's either like you feel like you missed out on the real experience because you didn't play it later when it was done, apparently, or the changes make the game lose what was special, and then you permanently lost the ability to play a game because you waited. And it's like, you never know which one's going to happen, which one's going to be till afterwards. And playing every game like 3 times at different periods of time to get the experience, to figure out what the proper experience even was, is also insane.
Yeah, and it's difficult to do when you run a channel because there's only so many days in a month to fucking put videos on.
Yep.
I made my channel so that I could play through all these games that I told myself I wanted to do series of and like chart my progress on, and now I'm just staring at the calendar being like, I'm never gonna be able to do playthroughs of Baldur's Gate 1, 2, and 3 all in a row because that's 450 videos. That'll take more than a year of airing the same
just gotta release 5-hour videos.
Or release or schedule them for the next year, which That's what I did for Elden Ring.
Just always
That's
the
what I'm
response
doing
that I
right
receive.
now.
I had months
Well,
of
the issue is wanting to get 1 and 2 done so that you can play 3 when it comes out and be timely about it and all
It's
that.
too late now.
And
It's
like,
too
and the
late.
solution people always suggest is to like turn around and be like, oh yeah, just release more, just more faster videos, longer all the time. And I'm like, yeah, I fell down that trap in like 2014, and it technically was a helpful way of getting me to where I am now.
Tanked
But
my
also,
analytics.
no, like it, honestly, like to some extent, massive amounts of content, at least when you're a small channel, can lead to like
Yeah,
you getting a
it's
foothold
good.
and all that and doing pretty well for you, but also like is really bad for you.
Yes.
For
Yeah.
so
Too
many
much work.
reasons.
Too much
Because
work.
not only is it just bad for your like your life work balance and your health and all that, but you also just end up like literally like not able to like you can't put time into anything else. Like you any creative endeavors you have on YouTube or elsewhere, like no, you're the guy who puts out like 6 hours of gameplay videos per day. So that's just your life. That's all you have time for.
Well, now YouTube penalizes you if you
that is true.
put
It's
more
a-
than 3 videos out a day, because it won't give notifications after the 3rd one.
yeah, we are.
It'll
this
put
is
it in your
a decade
subscription
later.
feeds, but it won't do notifications, which
But
is kind of messed up.
Who has notification for Let's Play channels? I mean, unless it's a slow thing. I feel
Some of them do.
I know, but it's like, I have one single channel that has notifications on, and it's just because it's news. Like it's pretty cool. Freestyle the news. Actually, I don't think that's the name of the channel, but I'm giving it a shout out. I'll tell you in a little bit. But either way, I have one, and I have a bunch of channels across subscribed to across 2 different accounts, and it's already too much. It's just getting notification. No, because sometimes I don't want to watch the video right away, and there's no way to to unread the notification to mark as unread, which is you should be able to do that. But once you read it, it goes away, and it's no. Yeah. Zaid Tabani, that's the one, the channel that I was referring to. Really cool. He makes good music, and basically he sings the news and talks about it.
Yeah, the Philip DeFranco spinoff.
Is that what that is? I've never watched Philip DeFranco, I'm afraid.
Yeah, no, I have was it it was literally a part, that channel was literally a portion of the Philip DeFranco show that they divorced off into its own channel. I don't know the real reasons, but I suspect it was probably because it just wasn't a good fit for like the flow of the videos, and they probably felt like people were probably like doing what I was doing, which is just skipping that part every time it came up because it's just so separate from everything else happening. I still watch Philip DeFranco. It's probably I've mixed opinions on some level because like, although he's actually getting better over time, but for a while there I was like, I really hate. I understand as a YouTuber that you're doing the whole like, wow, like what's your opinion about this thing? Leave a comment in the web zone and all that and drive my engagement. But I'm like, I don't like how almost every news story ends with this like kind of like both sides comment. Like because of a formatting element of like wanting to drive engagement, getting people to debate the news story in your comments, you're kind of implying that both sides of a lot of these stories are like a thing to discuss when a lot of them are not that. Like it had this like centrist feeling to it where he's actually kind of like walked back away from to an extent that I've been kind of happy with. But as far as somebody like him can go as like a kind of normie channel, but as a like aggregate of stuff that I'm going to be hearing about in the next few days, it's helpful, even if I don't always like love the content itself. Like, but he is like a mainstay. Like I was subscribed to Philip DeFranco like over a decade ago, back when every thumbnail was like a lady in a bikini, and then I unsubscribed at some point just to the monotony and the obvious like algorithm chasing, and I resubscribed like it's probably in like 4 or 5 years now when I kind of saw him like being a different kind of channel and more taking the news stuff more seriously than he was back in the day when it was almost like gossip. It was like almost felt like Drama Alert or something. And yeah, it's a worthwhile channel to have in your feed just because it really effectively ends up introducing me to the topics that that just a lot of people are going to be talking about, and I'll have some idea of what's going on. Like, otherwise, it's just like, what am I going to do? Like, go off of Twitter discourse to find out anything about like the submarine or whatever? Like, that's not the best exposure to anything. Half of it's just lying.
Yeah. I have nothing to say about this because I have no idea who this person is, and I don't watch any of this sort of content.
You don't know who Philip DeFranco is?
Nope.
That's fascinating.
Well,
not my kind of content.
He's a YouTube channel. You know, he's a YouTube
I mean, I've heard the name in passing, but I honestly think Keith might be the first person I've ever heard actually talk about them.
That's interesting. It's just such a.
I've heard.
I mean, yeah. I know that's like obviously like at any given time there's like a bigger thing that's happening. Like it's like it's like the equivalent of like not knowing who the Vlog Brothers are as a long-term YouTube like user.
I mean, so I looked him up and his icon, the monkey, looks familiar, but I don't recognize his face at all.
There used to be a theme song.
I've never looked at any of his actual content. So yeah, I just don't know who this person is. This is the quintessential thing that I would not watch on YouTube.
My brother still has the fucking monkey poster, and that's like iconography of this channel that dates back to like 13 years ago, I think, and hasn't been used in ages. It's just very funny.
Yeah.
How long YouTubers
my
are
subscriptions around. My subscriptions are very video game and tech oriented. I mean, the big YouTubers that I follow for active news are things like Linus Tech. I follow a few music YouTubers. Let me go to my actual account and not my I can't log out of this account right now. Let me pull open my phone so that I can look at my actual YouTube account and not my Toaster account. But I watch like a lot of Linus. I watch a lot of Jay's 2 Cents, stuff like that for tech news. Gamers Nexus, all the Hollywood stuff I don't really need to keep up on because that's just my work, so I don't need to follow anyone for that. But like, you know, stuff like Tech Linked is pretty good. Tech Quickie, that's all good for stuff like that. Max Dude, Technology Connections, all the Let's Players I follow. Austin
Technology
Evans.
Connections is a great channel.
He's a truly
so good.
So actually good. Digital Foundry, I get a lot of news on.
Oh, really good as well, yeah.
Just an endless reminder of how incredibly fragmented the YouTube experience can be.
You've never seen Technology Connections, Keith?
No.
So it's a channel about technological things, but specifically heat pumps.
Yeah.
But not just that.
He's really like a very, the way I think describe him is his content is like PBS for adults. It's really good. It's really calming stuff.
And he's really his delivery is incredible. His writing is really good as well. But
yeah, great channel.
Yeah, from learning things perspective is really good.
I don't know. My YouTube stuff is very curated. Like I have it curated specifically for my interests and for nothing else. And I aggressively avoid anything that is not immediately within my interest sphere because the moment I click anything that is outside of it, my recommendations are fucked for months. So sometimes
you live in horror.
Things.
I've given up on that.
I just can't do it.
I have urbanism, cycling, I have F1, I have technology things, I have politics, music, everything. It's all mixed up. Terrible.
Nah, man.
So much of my front page is a combination of like Overwatch gimmick streams.
Oh, and Overwatch, I forgot about that.
And then like,
Zomboid
don't make this mistake drawing. And it's like, ew. I don't even want to click on those. I hate their entire, like I can tell that they're clearly algorithmically effective because it's literally you touch art at all on YouTube and that's all you get suggested is stuff like that. Like,
yeah,
red arrow pointing at normal looking drawing of face. This is a horrible mistake to make. And it's just like, I hate the idea of like policing art and telling you that there's a correct way to do it and like shaming, like functionally shaming people for drawing certain ways. which is what you're doing, but just by having that thumbnail at all. Like it's upsetting to me. I don't like that. It's like I don't like that just trying to give advice and tips and tutorials has turned into like weird policing outrage bait. It's like an extension of Twitter, because and then inevitably I'm like, I know how the internet works. Somehow drawing correctly or not will become a moral choice. I'm like, I hate that. I hate that that's inevitably where this line of logic goes. That bums me out.
It's funny because one of the few art channels that I follow, Lavender Town, she does a lot of I fixed this character kind of content.
No.
but it's not like that though. It's wholesome, but it's
don't worry, they messed up and didn't make this character white, but I fixed it.
No, it's the other way around, if anything. But it's it's
just the cursed shit I see day to day. I'm like, no, please stop.
I was trying to find another art channel. Oh, there's a couple of art channels that I follow, and it's just I've said this before in a podcast, but YouTube really does not want subscriptions to work normally, because if they did, or not normally, but to work and be useful, because if they did, we would have like subscription categories and different tabs in the subscriptions page, and sorting and search inside of the subscriptions, and mark as read, mark it as unread. Like there's so much functionality they should add so that we can just have easy curated things. So I'm looking at my feed right now, and it's Sudoku, it's news, it's Fall 3, it's Overwatch, it's the Tour de France, it's F1, it's it's more news. It's a lot of news. It does show up. And mountain biking. It's just if I don't keep up with my subscriptions, they disappear and I never see the video again, unless it gets recommended to me for some reason. But it's just, if I miss it in the flood of subscriptions, there it is. No more. Didn't watch it.
I'm pretty good about just like checking on my subscriptions channels if there's stuff like I want to catch up on, you know? Like, I don't know, like I'm pretty good at following what gets posted whenever I do it, but even stuff that I miss, like sometimes I'll just like go back and watch like old Linus videos and stuff and just catch up on the things I haven't seen. I kind of just treat it like my cable. Like I just kind of let it play, and
every now and then something shows up in
everything.
my subscriptions and I just click on like that profile and end up getting caught up. I'm like, oh wow, I have neglected to watch any of this person's videos for like a year
strategy.
Now. Like,
that is a good
it's so hard to keep up with your actual subscriptions day to day because of how voluminous it gets as you find more channels. So eventually it's just like, oh yeah, like I like this channel, but apparently I don't drop everything I'm doing whenever they make a new video, which is apparently the threshold for not watching them for a year at a time. So they'll then like click on their profile and like binge their last year straight because I haven't watched any of it.
But that works better if you follow more or less things inside of the same genre.
Yeah.
And if the channels that you view are a little bit more shorter video on the side of things, because I have channels that just make like I scrolled at a random to a random point and I see so this is 5 so 15 videos. I see 4 of them with 3 hours plus in my subscriptions, because one of them is a podcast, the other one is a news show that's just, it's about guitar pedals, so it lasts forever, and the other one is a documentary, and it's just I've watched all of them, but my point is, if I don't watch them at the time they came around, or more or less around the same time, it's just that's a good idea of like seeing the channel and just opening the videos and
on a regular basis. When I watch like a video essay or something, I'll then click on that person's profile and find out what I've missed, because inevitably, unless they're like one of my top like 5 channels I watch, I will have like been like, oh yeah, maybe I'll watch that tomorrow, and then suddenly that next day there's a whole new deluge of videos, and then it just gets pushed down and I just lose it in the mess, especially with like shorts and all these other things are just
I hide them.
It's just so much. Yeah, I'm just saying, it's just so much active maintenance to deal with the sheer flood of stuff you get now. And like once upon a time, it was like, oh yeah, I'll just watch my. Once upon a time, my YouTube subscriptions used to be a bunch of animators that made like one video every few months. and then like a handful of this new burgeoning concept of video essays that would just put out like one video every 3 months, like each. So whenever one came out, you're like, oh damn, here we go, it's time for a new one of these. But nowadays I get like, there are I just for my subscriptions alone, there are new video essays competing with each other every day. It's so it quickly became such a crowded market that you're like, okay, well that one's not I don't know what that one's I don't know what the topic of that one even is, so I guess I'll watch the other one first. But then you're like, well, I don't want to. But then you like look at it like a one that talks about like feminine in media more, and you're like, well, I've neglected this entire channel for 6 months now. Like I should get caught up on this and not just watch stuff about the specific things I'm interested in all day every day. But then you're like, it's infinite competition, and suddenly you're like, oh, I'm 8 months behind on a Renegade cut. Here we go.
Yeah.
It's astonishing. It's astonishing how many, because just general behavior as far as, and it's why the subscription tab does become a struggle to use, is that generally speaking, as you use YouTube more, you will find more channels over time, and you are less likely to unsubscribe from channels over time because they probably in most cases didn't stop making whatever you liked. And like inevitably it's like the like I only occasionally unsubscribe someone from someone where I'm like, I realize I haven't ever stopped to watch one of their videos for a year now, and I kind of don't want to turn around and catch up. And if my reflex is not to rectify that, then I'm like, okay, it's time to unsubscribe. But that's rare enough that like, yeah, like you exponentially increase the amount of videos that are coming into your feed over time, even high effort ones. Because I already unsubscribed from basically every Let's Play channel. Like I don't really watch like daily gaming content. Even the Overwatch like VODs that I like, those like, it's a bunch of bronzes versus a single double statted Torbjorn or whatever.
No,
like,
I don't watch those. There's so many of them.
Those, well, I'm saying like even in those cases, like I'm not subscribed to any of those channels. I'm not subscribed to a single Overwatch channel that makes like daily gimmicky stream content. It's just whenever I feel like oh, I'm eating breakfast or whatever, and let's put something that I'm going to watch with my eyes on, I literally just go to the front page and click on whichever one between like J3 or Flats or whoever that's being suggested right now, because I'm not going to let them flood me every day. Phrasing. But even with that kind of stuff pruned out, and where the only YouTube channel I'm subscribed to for Overwatch is Marbler, which is pretty high effort, low duration stuff.
Marbler. What a
everything
pick.
is spam. Everything is like at this point the high effort content has become spam. like just the sheer volume of it is astonishing. It's incredible.
I am probably subscribed to like 10 different Overwatch creators
with
multiple channels, some of them. J3 has 3 of them, Flats and stuff. But there's some cool underground Overwatch creators that make like a video a day, or some of them a video a week. I was watching one early from a Sombra main, and he's all out there. But he only has like, when I subscribed to him, he only had like 3K subscribers. So it's really interactive, but he's like a top 500, and so it's fun to. It's like watching small streamers, but it's on YouTube. I've never watched his streams, but it's fun when YouTubers are reactive. Because if you comment on any big Overwatch player, they don't even see the comments, let alone reply. It's just like you're talking to other people in the chat or in the comments rather than the creator.
I showed so much restraint earlier when you guys were talking about games playing different at different levels and what level you balance them for, where I did not introduce Overwatch into the discussion.
I very purposefully I think Overwatch has problems with this, but
just carefully dodged making our 30th episode about Overwatch.
I'm just gonna say that earlier today I switched to Zen, and it's a 4v5. We freaking won. Let's go. Switching to Zen, man. But yeah, Overwatch is also a game that's not necessarily balanced around
Overwatch is a game that paradoxically tries to be playable and balanced for people that don't know how to play it, because no one does. Only the top 1% of the entire player base even has any idea of how the game actually works. It's the inevitably, because you introduce Zen, it's like the effect, whenever someone's team's failing, one of the inevitable possible outcomes of them to be there's not enough healing, and then you switch to the character with the lowest healing and you win.
And it's just funny.
No, because the game's so complicated and obtuse and doesn't teach you how to play it that even you don't know. Most people playing it that have put thousands of hours in it cannot diagnose what actually is a problem in a team anyway. And so if you do the exact what sounds like the exact wrong answer, you'll win half the time.
Yeah, 100%. And guess what? My teammates were like, "No, we need a Mercy because if one die, you get the res."
Yeah.
And Mercy, she can't do anything. I mean, it's a fair strategy to just you lose somebody, you get the res, so you keep going in a 4v5. But the problem is, in a 4v5, you're already at such a huge disadvantage that if one of you dies, you should regroup immediately. They get a pick, let's restart. And usually what happens is they get a pick, everybody else dies very fast. So Zen is Zen. I think the problem is, well, as Toaster says it, the game has no reinforcement of what you're doing right, no punishing of what you're doing wrong.
Yeah,
especially at lower ranks.
The success or failure state is so many steps removed from your input that you don't, and the feedback you're getting moment to moment, that you can't correlate them in any real way. The human brain cannot actually extrapolate what's happening in an Overwatch match to say who is win or losing the moment anything slightly complicated is happening. Fuck. Anyway, before we go Overwatch mode, bye. Episode over. Send your questions, dialogue choices, podcast@gmail.com. Just kidding, you won't. No one does. And we're not good at answering them anyway.
That's true. That's the biggest thing, actually. Yeah.
We do have a backlog of 9 to go back through, I think.
Although 9.
Yeah. Oh, in my inbox we have 9. I don't know which ones are ones I've neglected because I'm just that doesn't sound good, or just it wasn't the time or what. But most of them are from the same person, so that's barely anything.
Did you hear that, Preed?
We have answered more Preed questions than we haven't, probably.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm not
that's very
keeping
true.
Score,
thank you, thank you for sending them.
But most of the ones in my inbox currently are not from Preed. They're mostly from somebody else.
That's very true. I'm just picking on Preed.
Preed has both the newest and the oldest entry in this folder, but none of the ones in between. And I'm not reviewing them right now. Bye, everybody. See you later. Goodbye. Goodbye. Goodbye.
We are getting better at these exits.
Goodbye.
This is bye.
This was Toaster and Colonel if you want them.
Hi, I'm Toaster.
Bye.
Follow me
Not
on
hi.
YouTube and Twitch.
Yes.